And we're live. Cristiano Attacalitte, my co-host. This is DoubleBuffs and NALCS Esports podcast for everyone that's new and tuning into our show. My name is Gregory Piantedosi, and this is my co-host Cristiano Attacalitte. Cristiano,
Woo!
how are we doing today?
We're back. We got another week of LCS under our belts. Things are shaping up nice and fine. Let's
go,
baby.
Love the energy.
Yeah, good.
So a lot of things happened recently. We had some change of narratives. Those people that were looking in the short term after 1 week and making crazy takes, like Mark Z thinking that TSM was going to hold first place for the rest of the split. And then you had other people such as Cristiano Attacalitte saying, whoa, guys, we got to slow down.
Slow your roll. Yeah.
Slow your roll. How are you feeling about last weekend's of games?
I think, as we alluded to last week on the pod, I think that things are starting to shake out. And it's a little more, like you kind of were saying, it's a lot more expected, perhaps. There's a few outliers. 100 Thieves doing really well. But yeah, Immortals has fallen down a little bit. Dignitas is showing, they're all kind of in the same group there. So yeah, the league seems to have returned to basically normal after all that crazy stuff.
In the past, so after 2 weeks of games, 100 Thieves is in first place with 5 wins and 1 loss. Cloud9 in second with 4 wins and 2 losses. Team Solo Mid with 4 wins and 2 losses. And Team Liquid and Immortals with both. Okay, so Team Liquid, Immortals, FlyQuest, and Dig are all 3-3. Mm-hmm. So if you kind of put Liquid at the top of those 4 teams, things are starting to kind of shape up where we have 100 Thieves, Cloud9, TSM, and Team Liquid in the top 4, like a lot of people were kind of expecting.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, business as usual. So,
so I guess the spiciest thing that happened within the last week was something that came out very recently within the last 2 days, which was a video by Thorin on Team Liquid, kind of giving some insight and maybe like a kind of he's kind of playing a devil's advocate role, right? Where everyone's kind of speculating maybe Alphari was toxic, including you and I, and probably the whole League of Legends community base on Reddit, for example. And he's kind of taking the defense of the players, where he's saying, it's not Alphari's problem that's right now. First of all, go and watch this video if you haven't, if you're listening to this. Super great video. And second of all, Thorin basically said, Jat has an ego problem, and he benched Alphari because of his ego. Alphari just wants to play the game, and Jat couldn't really take any criticism. And it's not just Alphari. Other people share this sentiment. Supposedly, this is what Thorin's saying. We don't know how much of this is inside info, how much of this is kind of convoluted, but it's definitely an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, and who would have thunk it? I, for one, always saw Jet as a sweet angel. He's got the face of a little baby boy, and I thought, how could he do any bad? But Thorin alluded pretty heavily that this has been the case for a while, and even why apparently they had beef earlier. I didn't see that, but so yeah, Jat of all people is not exactly what I expected. Like you said, I expected Alphari coming from that harsh EU environment. Maybe he would bring some flame or toxicity, and that would be the issue. That was kind of my default assumption. But yeah, and it's weird that sort of the Team Liquid management, he said, is aware of the issue, and by allowing Alphari to get benched, I mean they're basically siding with Jat there, and that is a little bit strange. Because is Jat more useful to Team Liquid than Alphari, like the number 1 top laner in the league, number 1, could probably fight for the number 1 player spot even? It's really weird.
That's definitely kind of like the takeaway I got from the video too, where it was like, are you really going to choose Jat's side or these stellar players' side? But then we also have to consider, where is Thorne's sources coming from? How much of this is real? How much of like has Steve, the owner of Team Liquid, really looked into these issues? Because we're just speculating. We don't actually know what's going on, and as much as Thorne maybe has inside info, let's say it's Alfari that's supplying him with this information. Alfari might just actually be like a toxic player. Like we don't know. Maybe he's feeding him like false information to some extent. But I do think that Thorne does have a lot of connections within the different teams and scenes. So listening to his insight and he's not as filtered as someone more like Travis Gafford who might have insight into the teams, but Thorne's ready to kind of throw people under the bus when they deserve it. And every 6 months he makes a new video where it kind of shapes the entire League of Legends scene. And this seems like another like one of those videos. I don't think he's. I'm kind of on the side that Jat's the bad guy.
As far as Thorne's connections go, I know that he's always sort of touted all these connections, and his information is usually pretty reliable. So I think he probably has, or definitely has, even more information that he just can't share. And I don't think he would make these claims unless he was, pretty certain of them. I think that it would. Well, never mind. I was gonna say I thought it might be irresponsible of him to.
Well, he is in journalism, and part of the thing with journalism is getting views. So
exactly, yeah.
Having people talk about your content, which is what we're doing.
Free advertising, yeah. So yeah, I think I largely believe Thorne that it's probably a Jat issue, and I'm just really interested to see if we see Alfari back, and if like how this Thorne video sort of outing Jat is going to, like, what the next domino is. Like, is Team Liquid going to say anything? Is Jat going to say anything? Is anyone related going to address it that, this is a pretty big claim to make, and, Team Liquid has fans, and if they feel that the org is being run not the best, I'm sure they're going to have complaints. Yeah.
Yeah, so Thorne coming out with this video, it's definitely like kind of putting the ball into Steve's hands. Like, you got to make a decision now, because now it's like people are feeding other people, like players or maybe staff is feeding Thorne or other journalists information on the scene, and that's not really healthy when people start not trusting each other. And then it's kind of like, well, if some of this stuff is true, then now Jack kind of has to make a decision. Now I'm curious to see how fast a decision is going to be made, because let's say they do get rid of Jack, they need a new coach. You definitely want to like think over everything you're going to say to the public. But in the short run, I could definitely see maybe some ramifications of this where maybe they lose some games this weekend because people are kind of upset and uneasy and not trusting each other, because maybe it's not just Safari. Maybe Jat's like, oh, Jensen is, kind of out to get me too now. And we don't know what's going to happen. Jat could easily change his whole perspective, but we really just don't know. So that's kind of where that is. I definitely recommend go watching that video by Thorne. You can search up on YouTube, Jat Bully Thorne. It'll show up. It's very spicy. Another spicy thing that like he's come out with, he's a longtime TSM hater. He was talking about Doublelift and Lena's relationship a while ago when Doublelift went to Team Liquid. The conflict of interest. You probably heard about that one.
Actually, I wrote a whole article.
That's who Thorne is.
Yeah.
Thorne, I remember reading that.
Yeah, Thorne, a long-standing voice in the industry. I will be interested to see if this pans out to anything more serious. Imagine Team Liquid just kind of like implodes over some weird internal drama. I'm dying to know actually what the drama is. If it's just something as simple as not agreeing with like game strategies, or if there was like an altercation, or what's going on. I wanna sniff this out.
Regardless, I'm happy that Thorne's taking the side of the players, because it does seem that everyone has kind of been on the side of teams in the league. And one of the reasons why I just love watching North American LCS is because of like how much you can interact with players on a daily basis. You can watch their streams, their Twitters. You can really kind of get an inside look into pro players' lives, livelihoods, like their relationships with their teammates. And I love when, things go right. It's one of those things that, like, it's bad. Like, you don't want to support it, but as NALCS fans, we all love it when there's something as spicy as this to talk about.
Drama, yeah.
So, do you have anything else on that, or do you want to move on?
That about wraps it up. We still haven't heard much about Sven, which is kind of has taken a back seat with all this recent news. But I still got my ears out listening to what in the world's going on there, because we don't have any idea about that, do we?
No, we don't.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, there hasn't been much that's come out with that. Maybe we'll get a statement from Sven or Cloud9 or something soon. But another kind of foreign issue that I just wanted to touch up before we got back into NALCS was that Damwon Gaming this past weekend subbed out their star AD carry Ghost. They moved their star jungler Canyon to the mid lane and Showmaker to the bot lane. I know both Canyon and Showmaker were practicing AD carry, so it seems like they were kind of preparing for this decision. They wanted to either substitute Ghost out. Maybe he wasn't playing the best. Maybe they thought his communication problems were part of the reason they lost MSI or something along those lines. Because it seems like Barrel's mechanics, he was really the one that seemed to be underperforming regularly during that MSI tournament. But we also just don't know if they wanted to bring up their I believe, rookie jungler Malrang, who looked, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he looked really, really good on stage. Canyon also looked really good in the mid lane. He had a Flame Horizon. Showmaker looked good at AD carry. So we don't really know. Maybe they're just, yeah, go on.
I just didn't realize they had already played games with this lineup, with this configuration. And you said they did great.
They just did recently. Yeah, they 2-0 stomped a Freak of Freaks. So I don't know like how strong a Freak of Freaks are. Maybe they just wanted to give their rookie jungler some chance so they can do a 6-man roster at Worlds, because it is a long split, like we're saying. But that's just kind of like a little insight into one of the Korean powerhouses that will probably be at Worlds this summer.
Yeah, I've definitely heard the name Malrang before in an association with the league scene. So I don't know if he's been on any actual like pro or like main roster level, or if maybe he was in academy. Well, I assume he was in academy before this, obviously, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. There's always like sometimes like these players that climb to the top of the solo queue ladder in Korea that people are talking about, and it's nice to give them a chance. So maybe that's it. I don't really know. I just thought it'd be interesting for anyone listening, a little update on Damwon's roster. But we had a lot of games last weekend where teams kind of, like we said, returned to normal. Who impressed you? Who didn't impress you last weekend?
Yeah. So I think, it's kind of a cop-out to say 100 Thieves impressed me because obviously they're first in the standings. But that game versus TSM is where, they took the victory, and that was sort of where that theme began of like the standings sort of shaking out. The people who are winning, it feels like should be winning. Unlike last weekend where it kind of felt like, should these teams really be winning against the opposition? This felt more like the right order of things. 100 Thieves beats TSM, which was basically the other top team. I think people were thinking TSM was even better than Cloud9 last week. I definitely heard some of that sentiment going around. Regardless, I think Abadage is the best mid in the league right now. 1. I think FBI...
No, I disagree.
I think FBI is the best AD carry. 2. I think Someday is obviously an elite player. I'd have to think more about top lane to say if I'd put him at the very top of the league right now. Alfari's gone, though, so it's kind of between...
All right.
Oh, you want to stop my roll and go
all right.
Easy Town?
Yeah. You're going to go through each player and say they're the best. I get it.
No, not the best.
All right, one of the best. You're going to go through each guy and say they're one of the best.
Except for closer. I don't think so.
I don't know, man. I can't say that because Abadage's basically only played like 2 champions right now, which are Karma and Kali. Pretty much, they're both pretty broken right now. Kali especially is a very strong champion. And I don't think both of these are going to stay in meta for the entire split. And I do know. I also want to say that 100 Thieves usually has these kind of good starts.
Mhm.
It's a little different right now because they don't have that necessarily that continuity they had last split, where they kept the same roster and coaching staff. Now they have a new coach and a new mid laner, so it's not like continuity is the reason that they're performing so well right now. But historically, they usually have these kind of like downward spirals a little bit where they kind of panic and they don't face adversity too well. So I want to just like slow the roll on this team a little bit and the individual players because yes, we know how skilled they are. FBNI, Hoopy are great. Abadage looks pretty good so far. But once the meta shifts, once they start losing a few games, once they maybe lose their identity once again, what else can Abadage play?
Mhm. Yeah, it's totally fair. I just I've just been so impressed with what I've been seeing. I guess maybe I'm a little eager, but that's a really good point about meta shifting. Potentially, I'm sure we'll have at least like one meta shift during the season, and I mean it's promising that the two champions that they've been playing in the mid lane are like two different styles. That's kind of promising, right? Give me that. Come on, Karma,
Yeah, yeah.
Akali, not two
No,
different
I'll give you
styles.
that.
They pulled them off pretty well.
I mean, no, 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves looks like the best team in the league. I just want
Yeah.
to
Okay. I'm
look at it
glad.
long term too.
Yeah. Someday was
I
looking
agree with you.
dirty, dirty, dirty against TSM on Lee Sin, kicking, kicking Zion to walls. Um, that's all I got actually about him. But he's been looking really good in these team fights. Come on, man.
Doing some of this and that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was my kick.
On the flip side, on the
Hmm.
flip side,
What
I feel like I'm beating the dead horse, but Huni has not looked good. His lane phase is abysmal. It's just abysmal. TSM, I don't know what it would take to get Alfari onto this roster or what you have to do. When he seems like a really nice guy, but he's just fallen from greatness so far in terms of his lane phase, where back in Immortals and Fnatic and SKT, he had these really, really strong lane phases. And now it seems, I don't know, his positioning, his CS spacing, it's just fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, I feel like I see him going. He just takes like bad trades sometimes, or he'll do an all in and just lose, almost like he doesn't know the limits of his champions or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what it could be, because you're right. There's a big
Yeah.
hole in that top lane where
Well, it's weird because like he always seems to turn it around in the mid game where he knows like his role and all these other things. It's strictly the lane phase where he's kind of like not playing well.
if you think about it, I'm just theorizing, but that kind of is what you would expect from a long-standing player who has all this experience and like decision making or like history of like decision making in professional games and high stakes games. But maybe those mechanics are starting to fall off. Obviously, I don't know how old he is, and it's pretty overblown. Like how I'm just referring to like how people will call someone a boomer.
He's actually very young. He's like
Really?
not yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's actually very young, which is surprising because he's played professional League of Legends for such a long time. I think he started his pro career at like 15. So really he's like not even that much older than Spica. He's only like a year or two older than Spica.
That's
So
crazy.
maybe it's burnout, but like we were saying, I see what you're saying where when you're a veteran, you're kind of known for your game knowledge rather than your mechanics. But
Hmm.
it's weird because when he started his career, he was so known for the opposite, where he had really good mechanics, and then maybe his
Yeah.
game sense wasn't all there. But we also have seen him kind of fall from greatness the last 2 years, where you were alluding to it in our last season of Double Buffs, where he's kind of stealing paychecks a little. We don't know how much this burnout's affecting him. This does kind of seem like mistakes that he could fix just by playing more solo queue or just getting the right coaching staff to like tell him these errors.
Like a
We
tough.
really don't know, but it's been an yeah, it's been a long it's been like a while since he's really been on a great roster. He made Worlds with Demonte back on Dignitas a few years ago, but I don't know. I just don't see it from him. I think TSM needs to address this in one way or another, or they probably won't. They probably won't make Worlds. I don't think 100 Thieves and Cloud9 and Team Liquid, maybe like they can beat Team Liquid because of their internal issues, but you don't really want to get a world spot just because you're beating the team with internal problems. You want to compete at Worlds.
In team with internal bleeding, you could say.
So yeah.
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 I wonder. I like how you said it. They'll have to address it one way or the other. Whether that's, I was about to say forcing Huni to improve, but I mean, we don't know. I haven't heard a lot about like, does Huni play a lot of solo queue? Is it an attitude thing, or is he like burned out? He doesn't want to practice these picks as much, or is it he's practicing and he's still not at the level he needs to be at? And those have two different solutions, obviously.
Maybe he's just not good enough.
Yeah, if he's peaked, then you need to find a new player. If he is just not trying his best, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you bench him for a little bit to motivate him. Historically, that's kind of been the move that teams do when their players are maybe not so much motivated, but
underperforming.
Yeah, underperforming.
But that's a good point. I think something that maybe has kind of fallen under the public's eye a little bit is that they do have Haunter on their academy roster. So who has played with TSM before? So if they wanted to move him to academy, they would have a serviceable player in the top lane. So maybe this was an off week. Maybe Huni has been playing well in scrims, because I feel like TSM, they're all friends, but above all else, they want to succeed at Worlds. But enough of that. We can move on to something else. So Cloud9, I know you said you didn't watch too much Cloud9 recently, but they basically had like kind of a reverse week to TSM, where TSM went 3-0 the first week, then 1-2 this week. Cloud9's been vice versa. King, his laning phase hasn't been great, but I think it's kind of just early into the season issues meshing with the team, basic mistakes. But this past weekend, the team as a whole looked a lot more kind of cohesive, I think the correct word is. And King's mechanics are definitely there. We've seen him play Ezreal and Kog'Maw and other champs, and his auto spacing is really good. So you can see the skill and kind of why Cloud9 is taking a chance on this guy.
You must love him then, because you were talking about last time the Sven standing near people not auto attacking. I know you love auto spacing, so
yeah.
So you must be over the moon with this change.
Did you see his Kog'Maw game?
No, I didn't.
Did you see his Kog'Maw game?
Because I saw they played CLG, which I figured was a wash. I didn't want to watch. I watched the Dignitas one. Yeah, Dignitas, but they just stomped Dig, so okay. And then I don't remember the last game they played. So I basically watched No Cloud9 this weekend, and I'm glad to hear they're doing well.
Yeah. I would say I forget which week. Yeah, go on. You're like lagging a little bit. I don't know if I'm behind or it's you.
Oh man.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit.
I wonder why. My connection looks okay.
Oh, what were you gonna say? Go on.
I was gonna talk a little bit about evil geniuses and the always entertaining. I almost said circus. Maybe not a circus, or if it's a circus, it's like the What's the really famous one? The Cirque du Soleil. Is that how you say it?
I don't know. Oh yeah, the Cirque du Soleil or something.
Yeah. Maybe they're like that a little bit, a classy circus, because Jizuke. I feel like Jizuke really exposed himself this weekend as not an intern, but it was like really on display. The amount of times that really iconic one where he goes in under the tier 2 as Lee Sin and just gets one shot by the entire enemy team. Like, and I saw I Will Dominate broke it down where like not only is his decision making to go in there funny. Well, listen, if you watch the replay, he tries to place a ward like before the enemy team and do that trick you see Lee Sins do where they Q in and then W midway out to like beta spell, you know? And he
Mhm.
tries to do that, but he mis executes. He W's on top of himself so he doesn't go back and he just gets one shot. And it was lovely to watch. Uh, along with the pro view, we see that Jizuke just like types all game to the enemy team. And
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
saw that.
it's just hilarious. I can't believe what I was seeing, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I love that. Yeah, Evil Geniuses. Oh, they're such like an entertaining team. You know, a lot of people give them hate as kind of being like taking too many risky plays. But you know, if they just hover around that like 5 seed in every single time they play a game, it's gonna be a circus, Ole, as you said. That's a solid team to have in the LCS. I think too many people expect too much out of too many rosters, and Evil Genius's roster is pretty stacked. But the fact that they go for some like fights where they have like a 30% chance to win and like it'd be advised that they don't take it. The times they like win, it's like so entertaining. There's been some dragon fights I've watched with them where it really looked like they were gonna lose. They turned it around. And then there's other times where you got Jizuke going in like 1v5 and inting. In no matter which situation, whether he succeeds or he ints, it's super fun to watch.
He did it multiple times. He flashed in on Jace too, of all champions, and just got mollywopped. Uh, but then also, like you said, there's these dragon plays where he's 1 HP on Akali against like 3 enemy players. And
Yeah, that was it.
yeah, any other player, I don't know if you can maybe convince me otherwise, but I think like every other mid laner is not going back in there. They're saying, "Oh, lost cause." Jizuke gets in, he gets out, he gets I think a double kill, and his team cleans up a third, and they get dragon. Like, how is he doing this? And at the same time, these other travesty plays. Is it
Yeah.
just fingers? Does he just have good fingers? I don't understand.
I don't know. The margin of execution is so slim on these plays. So I guess like as a training strategy, you know, if you take these plays all the time, so over time when you start getting into these like high pressure like team fights and stuff, you're gonna be better than the opponent because that's kind of like what all they do is just like these high pressure fights over and over again, skirmishes. They just love fighting. They love playing the game of League of Legends. You know.
It's like training for like a marathon or something with an or like a oxygen deprivation mask or something. Speed that training up.
Yeah, training by a marathon by sprinting from like you just come out of the gates like sprinting and you're sprinting the whole time. Um, they remind me a lot of Dignitas, kind of. I feel like they have similar styles where both of them are kind of known for their team fighting,
Mm-hmm.
except Evil Geniuses definitely has a higher skill cap than Dignitas, I'd say, but Dignitas kind of takes more calculated fights.
Yeah.
I'd say that's kind of the difference between the two. A little interesting tidbit is that Dignitas also subbed out Soligo, who I thought was playing pretty well for Usui, who also looks good on Akali.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another roster shuffle that's kind of like it seems like when there's kind of a shorter off season and now it's a really long summer split, teams are willing to try out some of their other players, see how different
Yeah.
teams work together, different looks in the long run. But yeah, so Dignitas, Evil Geniuses, kind of similar teams.
Yeah, it's
Um,
really nice to see because a lot of the time, I feel like these middle of the pack teams are like are kind of boring. You know, you don't feel super enthusiastic about watching like Immortals of last season or FlyQuest. But now, I mean, I'm still not that interested in watching
Me
FlyQuest.
neither.
But like the EG, the the EGs, the Dignitases, Immortals a little bit. They're really like kind of spicy teams that are very active despite it not always going their way. And EG's
Mhm.
management has come out with like a statement about Jizuke that is really interesting that they don't want to crush this spirit in him and like stop him from doing this. They want to like actually encourage it, and it's so. I'm gonna get carried away, but it's really, really, really interesting, and I really want to see. Well, I said a lot of reallys there, but I want to see how it pans out. Like, is this a good strategy to lean into a player's like personal playing style, even if it comes if it there's like very obvious negative aspects, or is it better to sort of
I mean,
yeah
it's kind of interesting that you're saying this because my mind immediately thought of the Thorn video with Jat, and it seems like it's almost the opposite. I wouldn't say they're not like telling him to not do some things. I think they're trying to like take Jizuke's aggression and kind of refine it, fine tune it.
yeah
They don't want to just change his entire style. They just want to fine tune the edges. But I think it's kind of different from the Team Liquid situation, hypothetically, where maybe that's the opposite approach, where, you know, they're forcing the players to accommodate to the coaches, while Evil Geniuses is saying our coaches are going to accommodate to our players.
mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely something to think about.
Yeah. Last things on EG, they put Impact on carries all weekend. I made special note of that. He played Gwen, Akali, and I don't remember. Do you remember the third? Aatrox.
Mm-mm.
Aatrox.
Mm.
Oh, in that crazy game where they beat Team Liquid in the enemy base. Or did you see this one? They were in each other's bases like 4 different times for like base defense team fights, and then Evil Geniuses finally grasps victory from Team Liquid.
Oh, yeah, I saw that game.
A little concerning for Team Liquid, to be honest, because I don't know.
I mean, I think Team Liquid has a lot of concerning problems.
Yeah, well,
That's been established.
that's kind of what I meant. It's kind of, if you're Team Liquid, that's the last thing you want to see, is that you're losing to sort of coin flip.
That the same? Was that the same game where there was that dragon fight that you're talking about with Jizuke and Akali? I think it was.
Yeah, it was, and as they're destroying the Team Liquid Nexus, it pans back to the Evil Geniuses base, and Ignar is in base as Alistar. Was he Alistar? Yeah, he was in base as Alistar.
Oh yeah, he's dancing.
With like his little ward set up all around him. That gave me a good laugh when I saw that. But yeah,
it seems like they have a really good environment.
Yeah, honestly, I mean,
yeah, there's definitely lag between us right now.
Yeah, I could tell.
There's lag.
I could tell. Yeah, but
There's a delay.
Yeah, I'm always excited to watch Evil Geniuses, and I will continue to be, as long as they do this.
Yeah, there's it seems like there's a really good atmosphere within the Evil Geniuses organization, which I have to applaud them for. And it's kind of interesting that you made note of Impact's playing on all these carries, which is kind of in my mind I was thinking that's a little peculiar because he's always been known as this weak side player, at least as of recent years on Team Liquid. But now the question comes up: has he really just been this amazing all-around player this whole time, and Team Liquid as an organization has been forcing him to play weak side? Not that that's like his only style. I don't know if Evil Geniuses is just such a great atmosphere that they're bringing this out on him. Maybe he needs to play this way. Maybe Impact wants to start playing this way to find some new motivation to play the game and have fun. But it seems like Evil Geniuses is embracing this, and they're really lifting up their players to play what they want and succeed on it. I wish they were doing better in the standings, but they have had a lot of close games. They had one game against Team Solo Mid where if they didn't make one bad decision, letting Tristana and Baron close out the game, they could have won that game. And there's other games like that. So definitely one of the more interesting kind of rosters that's right outside of the top 4 that like maybe Huni doesn't figure it out and maybe Team Liquid implodes, and then all of a sudden we see Evil Geniuses at Worlds, which I don't think anyone would be sad about, because win or lose in the group stage, they will beat Damwon and they will lose to the wild card like no other. And they'll do it even better than Cloud9 did. They'll stomp
Yeah.
Damwon, and then they'll get uber stomped by the wild card.
gapped by the wildcard region. I'm also just glad that this Impact experiment is going well too. He was 3-0 at 20 minutes on Akali. Nice, they won that game. He got like a solo kill as Aatrox in lane. Nice. The third game was not great. He was Gwen, but the whole team got railroaded by 100 Thieves. So what can you do, really? It was more of a team gap than Impact gap. But
I didn't even know that. I didn't know he had Gwen. That's impressive that 100 Thieves beat them with Gwen so handedly.
But yeah, keep your eye out on EG as maybe a dark horse in the coming weeks. And yeah. Who else we got?
All right, what else? Let's see. That talked about that. That's all for me.
Yeah, how do you feel about
solo queue going so far for you?
Right now, not so great. I was making a beeline for Gold 2, playing Rumble only. But as I do, when I start to get there, I'm like 1-2 wins away from promoting. That's when I like to switch up my champion pool and like pick Xin Zhao and start inting. And I picked Viego. I lost that game. So it's been better. I'm getting enticed.
Do you
by
know how many years?
What? Yeah, say it.
Oh, there's definitely a delay right now. This is annoying. Do you know how many years you've been playing League for?
I don't want to talk about it. All right.
You know that?
What?
No, I'm curious because I actually have. So I've been playing League for just about 7 years, right? And I've basically been Platinum 5 in every single season since I started. But now that I'm in my 7th year, all of a sudden I'm Diamond 2. And I was talking to our friend Ryan Orico about this.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying the same thing where like he mentioned something and he was like, I think it really takes like 7 years to build up a skill like that. And like he's kind of on a 7-year plan for like real estate. And then I was like, wait a second, like I've been playing League for like 7 years and this is like finally the time I've broken out. So
this is the payoff.
I guess that's something that I thought was interesting. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've been playing 7 or 8 years.
I don't know what you're talking about. Go on.
Oh God, should we end
maybe
it?
I'm wrong. Or you're the anomaly.
Dude, what's going on?
Yeah, what were you gonna ask me before that?
Am I talking to you in the future or you in the past?
Okay, wait. I'm gonna count to 10. And then once you hear the number 7, say it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Now.
8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, I got to 11. And when you said 7, it's like a 3-second delay.
Oh man.
I wonder how this is gonna sound.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. I mean, I guess it's time to end it though, because this isn't tenable, and I think we've said about all we have to say.
All right, folks at home, thanks for listening to Season 2, Episode 2 of DoubleBuffs.
Goodbye from the future.
Bye-bye.
Best.